Buddy, this is Raul Ramirez of Kung Fu Culture here. We're doing a new series, basically trying to do a podcast for this channel because there's so many things that are happening in the world of Kung Fu. I think it's actually a great time because, unfortunately, so in the United States, when I was competing in Sanda, it Sanda was popular, but then it kind of lost popularity. I think ultimately, like MMA kind of just took over, and I heard from some of the Sanda tournament promoters uh, that they were saying that it became a little bit more regulated in the United States, so it fell under the jurisdiction of like the boxing promotions and the boxing commissions and stuff like that. So it became a little bit more difficult for people to even have Sanda events and stuff like that. So um, with that being said, kind of there's so many different things that made Sanda kind of fizzle out in the United States, but it's really very popular around the world, right? So unfortunately, it's not the biggest sport here it's actually in the United States, but um, almost in a way it doesn't matter because the rest of the world is enjoying it and practicing it and keeping it alive. So that's a really great thing. Okay, but the topic of today's conversation is Tai Chi, actually. So back actually in 2008, China applied to get Tai Chi. So it's basically the meditative form of Kung Fu. So where you're doing a a long sequence of movements that flow into like one movement flows into the next movement, and you're doing it at a slower pace, and you're focusing on your breathing. It is actually considered a type of moving meditation. So, you'll see people seated and motionless, just breathing, and I think that's people's idea of what meditation is, and it is a version of meditation. Usually you call that seated meditation. But things like Tai Chi and Qigong are types of moving meditation. So Qigong, you'll have different postures that you'll hold, right? Different positions that you'll stand in. Also, you can sit down as well, but you'll have these different positions that you'll breathe in, and you envision different processes in happening in your body, like moving your body's energy, using your breath to help heal different parts of your body, et cetera, et cetera. But Tai Chi, or what people call Tai Chi, is like still doing that. You're still moving and focusing on your breathing, and this in turn helps you in many ways, right? So like if you're because you're going to be moving a lot more, you're actually going to be covering a lot more ground once you learn a Tai Chi sequence. So some of them are very long, having over 100 movements. So once you learn the entire sequence, then you'll actually be covering a large area. So this is kind of one of the drawbacks for Tai Chi because, say, for stuff like seated meditation or Qigong, where it's much more simple, in those types of meditation, you can actually get to that whole like meditative zone quickly, right? So where you start feeling the benefits, you start kind of easily forgetting about, or like clearing your mind, forgetting about the outside world and whatnot. But for Tai Chi, I guess in a way, if you struggle to remember the movements, that's a way of kind of forgetting about the rest of the world, um, because you're just thinking about, oh man, what move comes next. But I don't consider that necessarily being inside the meditative zone, right, where you want to be for like getting the maximum benefits of meditation. But with that being said, once you learn a significant amount, and once you learn like the full sequence, and you practice it over and over, then you can get into that meditative zone. And the more you spend time doing the routine, then you'll get into the meditative zone faster and faster. So it is ultimately very beneficial. But one of the things that I reported on is like I believe one of the reports done by the UN or UNESCO, right? So it's like the the section of the United Nations that gives this accreditation to the different martial arts or different cultural heritages. Um, they showed or they talked about Tai Chi nowadays only being about 20% um, like accurate or 20% like the way or effective in a way. So there's so basically what they said was that, and I believe China also kind of this became kind of part of the whole report where it's like only about 20% of Tai Chi nowadays is like real or legit, right? So, uh, kind of what happened is like you have the original version, right, and the original form that had or still retained a lot of its martial art ability. So I think this is one of the questions that many people have for Tai Chi. Is like, oh, can you fight with it? Well, perhaps if you were doing one of the original styles with an original practitioner who knows a lot of the fighting applications, then yes, you can definitely fight with it. You can definitely use it for basic self-defense. You're not going to be necessarily winning kickboxing tournaments and whatnot, but at least you can kind of like defend yourself with it, right? Because a lot of the traditional Tai Chi styles have uh, a lot of joint locks. So, like if someone tries to grab you, there's all kinds of ways to counter lock them, right? There's different like kicks and stuff. There's basically a lot of different things that are very effective in a real self-defense situation. But unfortunately, a lot of that it hasn't necessarily been lost, but few practitioners know it. So only about, according to the numbers given by the initial reports done by China and the UNESCO, is that only about 20% of practitioners are legit, right? And but that does not mean that, like, say someone who enjoys the meditative aspect or who are only doing it for fun, and exercise and stuff like that, because they should continue regardless of who their practitioner is, because there's, besides the meditative aspect, which is very powerful and profound, there's also many other benefits that have been shown uh, that you will get by practicing Tai Chi. So I believe a university nearby here. I'm in Los Angeles, California. We have a university to the south of us called UC Irvine, or University of California, Irvine. They did a lot of research on the health benefits of Tai Chi and Qigong, like the different types of meditative Kung Fu styles. And they found that not only does it help, say, like balance, because you're doing movement slowly and methodically. So these over time improve your balance. So you'll be falling down less, right? And this is going to help you as you age, right? So you definitely don't want to be falling down much at all, like as you get up in years, right? Also, it helps your immune system function better. So that's one of the other benefits that UC Irvine found. But it says this is one of the Tai Chi is one of the exercises that that betters your immune function as opposed to other styles of exercise. So it is very, very effective at improving our health, right, or improving our immune system function, right? So even without knowing or learning from super legit practitioner who knows all the ways to fight with the style, you can still get all these great benefits. So for anybody who's interested in learning Tai Chi, and there's only like a one person in your town practicing it or teaching it, it's totally fine to go learn from that person. Tai Chi in particular doesn't really have any like downsides to it. But if you're looking for someone who is like if you're looking for someone who can teach you the fighting stuff, which I don't think really very many people are looking to Tai Chi to fight or whatever, then very few people will know how to effectively use the techniques of Tai Chi to fight. Right. So if you're not looking for that kind of thing, then you should be fine training or learning from virtually any teacher in your town, right? Because a lot of times it's all about learning the whole sequence of movements, and then once you memorize that, and you can kind of um, do the form without having to stop and think about what comes next, what move comes next in the sequence, then you can better get and easily get into that meditative zone, right? So you're focusing on your breathing as you move, you start clearing your mind. It's so easy to then really reap all the main benefits from practicing Tai Chi. So it's something very, very good. And then maybe if you happen to find a very good instructor, and the only thing I don't want to say is that like there's some so there's different like say Tai Chi styles, so different like say families who develop their own form of Tai Chi. Unfortunately, a lot of the say even some of the famous family lineages, they'll have people from that family lineage that didn't necessarily um, like learn a lot of the fighting stuff, but then now they're claiming it, and I think that, like they've been able to fool a lot of people who like say are newbies, right? They don't know any better. They're not necessarily proficient in fighting, and they're not like kung fu experts and whatnot. So they might get fooled, but ultimately, I mean, they can still get all the health benefits. So I guess the main point is yes, Tai Chi ultimately is a legit style, right? Where you can have a lot of techniques for self defense. But as China and the UN or UNESCO have stated, only about 20% of practitioners know the real thing. But when I say real thing, I mean the fighting thing, right? The self defense stuff, right? So um, if you're not necessarily looking for that, then you should be fine to practice it, because the meditative benefit and like say all these other immune system function and balance, all these things are just vital for your longevity. So it's something that's really, really good. There's a really cool article from Radi, China. So they kind of talk about where it actually took 12 years for UNESCO to add Tai Chi to the list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity list, because they initially um, applied for it, but they said that China submitted so many things all at once that the UN is or UNESCO is just like, no, we're gonna reject a bunch of things because it's just too many things, right? Um, Let me see it. It says the 400-year-old martial art is the foremost of kung fu's internal styles. Its soft movements contain combat applications and wrestling techniques, but it's more famous today as a mode of well-being and internal cultivation. Right. So, um, um, yeah, it says Tai Chi meets UNESCO's criteria, representing a masterpiece of human creative genius. So, yes, I would still recommend that people practice it or learn it. I do. I compete in, um, in grappling, and I've won a couple Sanda national championships in the United States. But Tai Chi is something that I've learned. I've learned several styles of it, several forms. I think the meditative aspect is really great. So if you're like, I would say don't worry about it. Just learn it if you're interested. Just try it. Like go for it. Right? It's not gonna hurt you. And if it is hurting you, you might have a weird instructor, right? So there's really no downside to it. So I'd say go for it. And yes, ultimately, if you're wanting the health benefits, then all practitioners are legit. If you want the martial art aspect, self-defense aspect, then that might be a little bit more difficult to find. But I'd say just keep practice, like start practicing, start learning, and then maybe eventually you'll find someone who knows a lot of the self-defense of Tai Chi styles. Maybe we can even do a series about it on this channel, because we've been doing a lot of Sanda stuff, but maybe we can kind of branch off into helping to preserve the martial art aspect of Tai Chi, and then also um, helping to preserve some of uh, the Chinese traditional jacket wrestling, or Chinese style wrestling. But um, so it's often called Shuaijiao, but Shuaijiao is just a name for wrestling. And China has several traditional styles of wrestling. Like I was wrestling in Yunnan province, where the native people there, the Yi people, they do their own style of wrestling. No jacket, it's like no shirt on, and you wrestle to pin the person down. So the jacket wrestling is another traditional wrestling style of China, and the way it's practiced nowadays is that you just have to get someone down, right? Or you have to make the like one part of their body touch the ground that is not the bottom of their feet, and then you win, right? So um, we can maybe I can kind of talk about how there are several different styles, several traditional styles of China, or wrestling in China. We can kind of talk about that, but all of them really need to be preserved. I think especially the jacket wrestling, that's really like kind of losing popularity just in general, uh, and I think it's something to kind of talk about. Maybe we'll do some videos about. So we'll kind of that's something maybe to look forward to, or something that we'll be putting out for you, because it seems like a lot of people right now are getting more interested in the Sanda, because actually a lot more Sanda practitioners are doing very well in MMA. So we'll still keep doing that, because that's the class I teach at UCLA. That's the University of California, Los Angeles. It's one of the best universities in the world. So luckily, because we have so many students and we have such a diverse martial arts program, we have Sanda there, uh, and many students enjoy it. So hopefully, we can get a little bit of a resurgence in popularity in the United States for Sanda, especially since Chinese fighters and even Filipino fighters are using Sanda in MMA. So we'll just continue bringing out the Sanda content. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just sign off here, and we'll continue answering questions. If anybody has a question, you can go ahead and put it in the comments. We can kind of talk about that in the next live stream. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time.